The only thing that I thought that was somewhat shocking about this fight was how easy it was for Dmitry Bivol. He looked fantastic. I definitely underrated him. His basic brand of boxing was sped up here against a smaller man. He was quicker in absolute terms, not just relative. And he found it so easy to just jab Canelo, to tame him, and block whatever he tried to throw, which was just very predictable right hands and the odd uppercut. He really had nothing to threaten him with. He came in trying to be the stalking power puncher, and Bivol really didn't seem to be impressed. He's like, you're going to have to bring more than that. It was lovely the way he just varied the basics. 1-2s, 1-2-3s, the odd right to the body. He had Canelo on the ropes at times and flustered, a little bit stressed, not able to slip away from the punches like he usually does in that position. And after the fight, the way Bivol spoke about how Canelo is kind of more of a 168 guy almost echoes this, I wouldn't say guilt, but just acknowledgement that this guy isn't big enough. He hasn't got enough to threaten me with. People had remarked how he'd beaten Joe Smith Jr., of course a big puncher. He'd taken his big shots. How is Canelo gonna turn the tables when he lands clean? When he's taken the shots of that guy, and Canelo wasn't even able to land clean. This is how difficult the assignment truly was. This is why the idea of a rematch seems pretty silly. Bivol was able to exploit what has always been an Achilles heel with Alvarez, his stamina. He is semi-automatic. He has his explosive little cameos, and then he needs to rest up a bit. He may be stalking you, he may be moving that head, but he's somewhat feigning a relentless nature. It's partly because he can't throw again. Even in probably his best top-tier win against Danny Jacobs, he needed his moments in that fight to huff and puff. Bivol kept making him work, kept engaging him at least, stressing him out, making his distances incorrect when he swiped air with the right hand, and then following him when Canelo tried to get out of range, and he was popped with a jab. He was the complete master of the situation, and he needed to be, because look at the scorecards. Bivol had to be that good to ensure victory. It's been said already now many times, look at that, the first 4 rounds, all 3 of them got the same. Talk about some corrupt insurance. Is it rounds 1 and 3? There's absolutely no way you can give to Canelo. He was rendered virtually useless, getting his forehead jabbed in, which post-fight you saw was quite swollen. Bivol knew what he needed to do. He kept it busy. He kept switching up his tactics. Perhaps could have been a little bit more aggressive when he had Canelo on the ropes, but just decided to keep it sharp, retain his own stamina, and remain on top. And now, naturally, the many people who thought Canelo Alvarez was the greatest fighter of all time is now something closer to a bum. You know, we knew all along, right? A guy loses, what an idiot, what a loser. It's always hilarious how much the internet seems to just inflame emotions. 1 minute, somebody can do no wrong. If you try and be critical of the guy when he's winning, it's, whoa, you hater. And then he loses and everyone's trying to bury him. Canelo Alvarez is still obviously a quality fighter, one of the best on the planet. You have simply got to salute him for trying to do something that was quite clearly beyond his capabilities. Because as fans, isn't that what we really want for every fighter? For them to try and push to their ceiling, see how good they are. Something we often criticised Mayweather are not doing. What would have been the equivalent for Mayweather of Canelo Bivol? Maybe Floyd against Triple G when he was in his full flow about 2013. And it's not about whether he would have won or lost. It just would have represented that risk that we didn't always get with Money May. Now, compared to some of other history's great fighters who dared to go up and challenge themselves against men who were, in frame-wise, much bigger, where Canelo seems to come up a cropper is that footwork, the slow feet. You need to have nimble little legs to get away from the bigger man, to close the gap and make things tricky on the inside. He doesn't. He wasn't able to get himself in position to do the feints, to find the more clever shots. When you look at some of the truly great little giant slayers, the likes of a Mickey Walker, Roberto Duran, Manny Pacquiao, they all had nimble feet. They were all able to skirt around the canvas, get out of harm's way, and quickly close the gap in a fashion that Canelo can't. Further, with the likes of a Roberto Duran, he had that nifty ability to slip as he came forward. With Canelo, he's always had to separate his talents almost. When you throw shots at him, he has to root himself to the canvas first and solely concentrate himself with slipping. Everything's a bit more clunky. It's not as fully integrated, as smooth as you'll see with the truly all-time greats. And so it's certainly not a diss, but it is a necessary distinction to so many of those people who are trying to say, prior to this loss, he is the greatest thing I've ever seen. He might even beat Usyk at 201, which was such a silly kind of projection of the hype we had prior to this second official loss. Has this loss of Canelo Alvarez changed my opinion of him at all? No. He remains the same top technician I've always thought he was. Just not truly outstanding. Indeed, against some of his other countrymen. He's never dazzled like Salvador Sanchez against Danny Lopez, Azuma Nelson, like Barrera against Nazim Hamed. It's always been more stop and start. One good quality, one bad quality. Should he rematch Bivol? I don't think so. That was well too easy. Let's take it back down to 168. A lot of people have been calling for David Benavidez. You're still a superstar.